What's up, guys? Been a minute. I've actually been playing a lot of One Piece nowadays, and I haven't made a deck list for one because I haven't really been playing anything too substantial. But once this new Zoro Sanji came out with the structure deck, I honestly wasn't even anticipating him. I wanted to play Rosinante, but as I've been playing him, I've been having a lot of fun. So his effect to whenever he has a Dawn attached to him and he attacks once per turn, he can bounce a 2-drop or higher to restand a 7k or lower, and it's just a really fun effect. And I'm going to get into my list real quick. It's kind of unconventional, which is one of the main reasons why I am making a deck list over this, because I mean maybe it can help someone else figure out the way they want to play it, but for me this deck only almost plays perfectly. Starting off with 2 10-drop Doflamingos. This guy's just there because this game really struggles in the late game, and he can be just very helpful for solidifying your place because you're playing really minimalistic, and a lot of people can out your things because everything besides him pretty much is 5, I think, is the highest drop. So you can get outed by almost literally basically any form of removal. So this guy just kind of helps you maintain a little bit. So like even if you get Red Rock, 3000 Worlds, or just blown up by black, he'll just help you kind of maintain your footing and maybe bounce back for one more turn to spam a blocker, or just 10k is also just a really nice body. Only run 2 because he's really dead in hand, and for some reason I always get him. Like I don't know why, but I always have him when I need him. I can't say the same for this Zoro, but the times that I have actually put him on board, he has helped me so much. You run a good amount of resting cards like Izo and Sugar in this, which are really easy to play out. But him being able to rest a 6-drop or less is really good for resting really annoying blockers that are like 5 or I mean sometimes 6, and it's also helpful for like getting rid of a character that they had just played that like has a really good effect or something that's like more than once per turn, not once per turn, but like not on play. So I run 2 of him, kind of thinking about cutting him, but he's a really hard to cut in my opinion because he has his place, to be honest. Now getting into the main core of this deck, we run 4 Zephs, and this guy is absolutely insane in my opinion. I mean, like, yeah, he's not like the craziest card ever printed, but for what this deck is trying to do, he is one of the best at doing it, because once you play him, he lets you stack the top 3 or put him at the bottom, and then every single time he attacks, he can play a 2-drop from the top, rested, mind you. So that's something to definitely look out for, because that, like, when I was first playing it, that was really the hardest thing to get used to. But as long as you like plan out, oh, I'm gonna play this guy with Zeph, like a Sugar, and then bounce that Sugar back so I have a recurring Sugar every turn, it's pretty good. Or just getting a blocker and then like bouncing back a 2k or Sugar or anything to restand that blocker you played. It's pretty good. Or you can always just restand him to get like a Law on field, and then also get a Sugar or like any combination of that. So he's just really good. Perfectly balanced in my opinion. He's not broken or anything. Then we run 4 of the Ivankov, and this guy on play plays a 2-drop from the top of your deck, but it's not rested is like the main key. I'm pretty sure, at least. Yeah, no, he's really good. And also another really good thing is you can actually just leave him as your top deck or next draw. And this guy being able to draw is also really helpful. Like you have like if you're not trying to keep your hand size low, this guy will make sure you're full of 2Ks and such. And like just 1 Dawn for a 5K on him is pretty good. And honestly, it's kind of funny because your main attacker is so easily to out. This Sanji is nuts. So his 1 Dawn, 5 or less cards in hand, when he swings, gain 2k. So 1 Dawn, he becomes a 7k whenever you swing first. And then on your opponent's turn, he'll be a 5k body to try and out. But The main idea is to try and get him to swing twice, which can be a little tricky, but as long as you're not good at the deck, you'll be able to plan around it and always have 5 in hand whenever you're actually having him on field, or sometimes even 2 on field. But I try to keep it down to 1 because it gets a little irritating whenever you have more than 1, because one of them is going to be 5K. It's a lot better like late game, and like him being 2 is just really good. So he can get up to like 9K if you put, I think, 2 Dawn on him and then swing twice. Just really nice, which he's a guy you never want to put 3 Dawn on unless if you have another one, because if he's above 7K off of that first one, you cannot actually restand him. Just something to keep in mind. One of the main utility cards in this deck is this Sugar. On play, rests a 4-drop, and then has a 1K counter in hand, which is really good. So like I generally will bounce the Sugar to restand something just so I can every turn have that resting a 4-drop ability, get rid of blockers. Don't ever try to use a second effect. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know, but it only works if you're running Doflamingo or Rosinante, someone with Don Quixote Pirates in the name. Another really good utility card, which I'll get more into his targets later, is this Law. Really cheap, honestly, and really just good. I mean, he has a lot of versatility. I mean, being a 2-drop 1K counter that can play an Ivankov, a Blue Dofi, or an Ezo from hand for free is just really, not for free, but one Dawn, which really isn't that much. It's just really good, and then you can like put 2 Dawn on him, swing for 5K, which is just like, he lets you get so much value, and I'm really glad I decided to run him in my deck. Getting into some of the blockers now. Of the 2-drops, we only play 4. Well, we play the max of Duval because he lets you stack your top decks and get more 2s going in circulation. And I've actually bounced him a lot of times just to make sure I'm able to keep stacking my top deck for later turns. And he's just really good. I mean, he's also 1K, which, I mean, most of the time I won't use him for that, but he's just good. And then, because your deck's so prone to removal, you kind of have to play this Rosinante, which if for any reason a card would leave the field, you can just rest him, I think. No, you just, wait. Oh, no, yeah. Sorry, I suck at reading cards. It's because I play Yu-Gi-Oh! If they were just KO'd, you can just trash him instead, which is really good. So he's just really solid because, I mean, everything you play is like 5 or less. So you're really prone to removal. But this guy kind of puts duct tape on that leak in your ship, which, I mean, always nice to have like a little bit of a backup plan. I only play 3 of this Doflamingo, even though he's pretty solid at setting up your top decks, got really good attack, and is a 1K counter, but he is a 3-drop, so you can't play him for free. The lowest you can do is like play him off of the Law, which it can be good, but I don't know. If I remove one of the Zoros, though, I'm probably bumping this guy up to 4 because he is that good for this deck. But it does feel bad whenever you don't reveal a 2 off of one of your guys. But that's why you want to keep, stacking your top deck so you never have that issue. And this guy definitely helps with that. Going into my 2K counters now. Best one, by far, undisputed, is Ezo. Because just rest a 4-drop. And that's just really good. And then you can just bounce it back to your hand to restand with your leader effect. And it's just really solid because you get to use that every turn if you don't have a Sugar in rotation, and you just always have a 2K in hand with that. And also just you need 2K counters. And this deck, honestly, I never feel like I'm running low on 2K counters between the draws off of Ivankov and like getting a free pudding off of my searches, which that's another card I'm just going to go ahead and talk about now. This is starter deck 12 pudding. Whenever you play this, it just translates to an instant free 2K because you just activate main, bounce it back to your hand, and it's really nice. It feels amazing. It's obviously not one of the best things you can get off of it, but sometimes you really need it, and it just really helps you. And you can also just leave it on field if you have like 5 exact cards in hand. Swing with your Sanji again, and then that way after you get done swinging with your Sanji, you can bounce it back, and then you'll be at 6. So that way you don't get messed up by the 5 condition. And the last one is this Mihawk in here, which I don't really use him a lot, but there are some times where I'll use him to play this Zoro, then bounce him back to restand the Zoro, so that way they don't just instantly go for that guy. And I mean, besides that, he doesn't really do much. I don't really run a lot of slash attributes. I mean, he can play a law for free, but it really doesn't feel amazing when you do that. And I mean, he plays him rested on top of that, so he's just mainly here to be a 2K, but there are definite situations where he's good to actually just play. And then the final, essentially 2K, but it's an event, is Surgery Shot, which was in Structure Deck 12. I've seen a lot of people play the one that lets you gain 1,000 on your turn, and that one is pretty good, but I prefer this more because if you're already trying to be defensive, you get a plus 2K and then maybe a blocker or just something that can help you next turn, which is just really solid. And I just really like this card. And that's everything for this deck. I wouldn't really change it that much besides this Zoro, which I just really can't because I feel like he's just really good in his specific times. If he was just like a 4-5 1K, I'd feel a lot better about having him in here, but that's another reason why I have him at 2. But you don't really actually have that much consistency issues just because you just draw. Like, I don't know, you're stacking your deck, so you always know like the next thing, so you're always in the know. So like you can always just keep putting this guy to the bottom, and you like, as long as you're aware and keep doing your things right and keep bouncing the things you need, so that way you keep stacking your top deck. Unless if you open him, you're not getting messed up by him. I mean, even if you take him from life, it's not awful per se, but you do not run any card with trigger in here. But I mean, in my opinion, it's never messed me up. I've never been like, oh, I wish I had a trigger in here somewhere. But yeah, that's the deck. It's pretty solid. I have a lot of fun with it. Obviously not one of like the meta defining decks, but it's under $100. I'm pretty sure it's $70 to get this whole thing. And I don't know. I just always been on budget decks since playing One Piece. And I've always had my success with the budget decks, and I've never felt let down by them. Like, they always outperform, in my opinion, probably because I come from Yu-Gi-Oh! And like budget decks are just, you lose, and like you barely ever win. But with this, I've beaten Katakuri. I've even beaten a Gecko Moria online. I don't know if he was playing it correctly, but he was definitely giving me a run for my money. But obviously it's green, so you're going to struggle against black and red and just anything with removal. But you're also able to kind of recover from it pretty easily. So I feel like this deck is actually just really well-rounded. But if I was to choose a deck to play at an event, I don't think this would be it. But this is a very fun locals deck for sure. And that'll about do it. Thanks.